Anthropic has done it yet again. They just published a new change that has given us the clarity that all of us wanted for the past month or so, and nobody is happy about it. So let's just take a look at what went down. So the Claude Devs Twitter account tweeted that starting June 15, that's in a month's time from now, the paid Claude plans can claim a dedicated monthly credit for programmatic usage. And it covers the usage of Claude Agent SDK, the Claude-P command, and Claude Code GitHub Actions, and third-party apps built on the Agent SDK. We heard your questions about SDK and Claude P usage sharing your subscription rate limits with Claude Code and Chat. Starting June 15, it will get its own dedicated budget instead. Your subscription limits don't change, and they are now reserved for interactive use. How it works: claim the monthly credit once, and programmatic usage will draw from it automatically. When it runs out, you can keep going with usage credits. If usage credits are off, usage pauses until the credit resets. Monthly credit amounts vary by plan, so the amount here is basically what you are paying for the plan. So if, like for me, I'm paying the $100 plan, I will get $100 of credit. And it's saying that you can use this for the third-party tools like built on top of Agent SDK like Conductor and OpenClaw with your Claude plan, but it's limited to now a separate pool now. There's nothing to do today. You will get an email on June 8 to claim the credits. And many people were unhappy about this, but don't really understand why, because it seems like a good thing. When I read it at first, it seems like a good thing. And even when you read it, it seems like a positive change. But then when you read into the silver lining of it, so this is your weekly limits originally, which is still the same now until the next month. Now, they will come up with a new pool for the programmatic usage, which is a new separate pool now that if you were to use Conductor or fee-free code or those that built on top of the Agent SDK, this will only work with this now, the programmatic usage pool, which is up to the amount that you pay for. So if you're on the 5x plan, you will get $200 of usage. And it's not even that week as well. This is for the whole month, by the way. So for the entire month, you'll use up this $200 limit, which is what you pay for in this separate usage pool, and you can no longer touch your weekly limits for these programmatic usage. Basically, what this is saying is that they are basically locking everyone into the Claude Code CLI and the Claude Code app. That's basically what they are saying here, because this is the only two things that you can use with the weekly limits now, and you can no longer, this is like they are drawing the clear line now that you can no longer use it for using your subscription, which is up to a 5,000 subsidization for the $200 plan. So this is why everyone was pretty upset about it, because they are locking us into the horrible Claude Code CLI, which I personally had my fair share of experiences where even on stream as well, I just kept running into issues on stream, and I just don't like the Claude Code CLI in general. I've been finding ways to go out of the Claude Code CLI and use other harnesses like OpenCode and Superconductor, and not Superconductor, Superset. And those Conductor and Superset aren't available on Windows. That's the whole problem with it, which is the whole reason why I'm still stuck on the Claude Code CLI. And in fact, I have been wanting to get out of it for so long. And in fact, just yesterday, they added the agent view for allowing you to like manage a bunch of different agents in general. But the thing with this is you can't use the dangerously skip permissions inside of this. And it's just all these very nuances with the Claude Code CLI that makes it so frustrating to use that I tend, even after they added this, I just go back to my 6 Claude Code instances, opening it in Visual Studio Code, and not use any third-party harnesses at all. They also added this Go command as well, which is which I guess these two actually led to this, what we have today, and they just improved whatever they had in Claude Code, and they just decided to pull the plug today to kind of soften the impact of it a bit. So Matt here is saying that this is the clarity that we've been crying out for, but it's a poison chalice. This is a 10x cut to the Claude P, disguised as a monthly bonus. Anthropic is discouraging any kind of programmatic usage, and that's fine. No subsidy lasts forever, but it's time to move on to Codex. Theo here says that I can't help but feel personally burned by the Claude Code usage. Claude Code changes announced today We put up so much work into wrapping the atrocious Claude Agent SDK into T3 code, and it was the only path they supported, so we made it work, and it was hell. Now our users are getting rate limits cut by 40%, despite us doing everything right. I listened to the Claude Code team. I had my issues with the direction, but I trusted them and took them at their word. I'll never make the same mistake again until we see significant change. It is safe to assume any statement from any Anthropic employee is a lie on a timer. The rug will be pulled no matter how many promises are made beforehand. And he has cancelled the subscription. So the thing is, if you use any third-party harnesses, then you're basically the one that's being affected by this. And so far, for what I'm using, I'm just using the Claude Code CLI, which I'm not happy about, but I've been using it for the longest time. So it doesn't exactly affect me in any way, but I really wanted to get out of it for the longest time. I just don't have any good harnesses that I can use on Windows. That was the whole reason why I'm still stuck on Claude Code. They're disguising this as free credits. So the way they written their post is such that it's saying that you are actually, this is on us. We are giving you this extra pool of usage to use for your programmatic usage for whatever you want, your Agent SDK, OpenClaw, whatever you want, this is on us. But the silver lining is you can no longer use whatever you have in the subsidization pool now. It's now out into a different pool. So everyone is now forced to use the Claude Code ecosystem. Regardless of how trash it is, we are locked into the Claude ecosystem for whatever plan we have now. And with this, to kind of soften the impact of whatever they have just done, they are trying to do an increase of the weekly limits by 50% until July. That's about 2 months effectively. And 50% is not double, by the way. It's just a 50% increase, which is half. So what you have now is 100% weekly limits than before. And it starts today, by the way. And they say that this stacks with the 2x increase to the 5-hour limits announced last week. So what they are effectively doing here is, last time, the 5-hour window was this amount that you can use. Now you can effectively use double now. And no matter how many windows that you use, it's still the same as before. So with the increased 50%, that they are giving here, effectively, the only difference for these 2 months is that you have a 50% increase on what we had before. But if you were to use a third-party harnesses, if you were to use any third-party harness, you will still go to this pool. It won't even affect this pool at all. But that's before June 13. Once June 13 starts, everything will be kicked into this phase. Once we get to June 13, everything will go into the programmatic usage. If you were to use the -P or the Agent SDK or OpenClaw. And Z here, the Z editor, the IDE themselves have tried to come up with sort of like a workaround for it. And Theo himself has tried to come up with like some sort of to work around this change. And there's some projects out there as well in the wild using a ZMark session to work around this. And another one here as well. And from what I understand how Warp works is that they have this rich input interface here. So if we were to type hi here, it would actually send the prompt into this interactive UI here and send it to Claude. So this might be one way that that's possible to work around. And that's actually how this works under the hood essentially, which will not count into the programmatic usage and still count into your weekly limits. And in fact, I've been trying to get Agent Client Protocol up. In fact, I was building my own app as well for the longest time, and I've been wanting to use Agent Client Protocol as well. And this is by the Z team. I think they are collabing with JetBrains as well on this, with like all of the JetBrains IDE supporting this as well. And now with this not available, I'm not sure how they're gonna work around this, because the way they did this was through the Agent SDK as well. So regardless, in the next couple of weeks time before this is kicked in, they might go back on their word on this. Either that, or we will just have a bunch of workarounds that work around this change. And the more that we work around things, the more Anthropic will come up with something to just throw everything out of the window again. So If you use things like conductor, how they work is they use either the agent SDK or the programmatic command, which wraps the Claude Code CLI under the hood and allows you to use it in a different interface. So for something like this, we are actually directly using it in Claude Code itself. So if you were sending a prompt here, it's actually sending it directly into the Claude Code CLI itself, which works around it sort of. And even Superset here as well, and it's also only available on Mac. I don't know how to feel about this, man. They just keep doing things that try to anger everyone, and we've been asking for this clarity for the longest time, and it just seems like the way they released the Go command and the agent view it seemed like a good thing yesterday, but now it seems like they did that to lock everyone into Claude Code again. And nobody is happy about that. I just didn't have any choices on someone who is using on Windows to use any third-party harnesses. Now I'm fully locked into the Claude Code CLI, and there's nothing I can do about that. And I honestly think that it will just keep getting worse from here, knowing how much shit that they have fucked up recently. And with like my previous videos, I really want to stop making Anthropic videos, but I really have no choice but to. They just keep fucking up things. And the way they do their PR is they show something that's positive, but in fact, the underlying is actually something negative to make a positive PR out of it. The way they twist their words is really insane. And I even called this out in my previous video as well, where I said that they are going to focus on the enterprise customers now. And these people, everyone who is on the subscription plans, the subsidization, they are just basically not subsidizing us anymore. They're just going to pull the rug more and more. And in fact, my previous video was actually calling out Anthropic on whatever they did on the 5-hour weekly limits. And in fact, my previous video was actually calling out Anthropic on the double usage of the 5-hour limits, and that did nothing at all. That was my actual message in the video, but some of you guys didn't even watch the video and said that I was tripping. And just a couple of days ago, they just announced the partnership with SpaceX. The deal, even they were just trying to expand their compute to cover their overwhelming demand, and that seemed to like not even do anything. Well, it initially seemed like a very good thing, and they just doubled the 5-hour window limits, which literally did nothing. And then now they're doing even more shit to fuck more things up. So what was like the whole point of that deal then, if that doesn't do anything and we just still keep getting more and more nerfed to Claude? And Claude is just such a good model, and the company themselves is the one that's the problem here, that's making Claude look bad to everyone. I guess it's maybe time to move to Codex.